All right, everyone. So now that we know a little bit more about how to find sound effects to use in our animations, or even how to record, very basic recording, you probably won't record many sound effects, although you could if you want to do that. But more likely you might want to record, voice, like doing, very simple voiceovers. But let's talk about how to get sound into Adobe After Effects. Okay. So Adobe After Effects, let's talk specifically about that. So Adobe After Effects can work with most standard sound formats. Okay, that includes MP3s and what are called WAV files. Okay, so if it's not that, so if it's like an AIFF, which is another format, or a FLAC file, which is a very high level audio format, or an AAC, which is a format that Apple uses, that won't work in Adobe, but these will. Okay, so make sure your sound effects or your whatever music or your sound is that. In the folder I gave you, there's a folder called sound clips. You'll notice I have a bunch of sound clips here. Some are WAV, some are MP3s. How do we get the sound file into Adobe into Adobe Animate? Same way we do everything, which is, well, okay, let's go to File, Import, Import to Library, and let's find a sound effect. So I'm going to bring in boing.wave. Okay. When you bring in a sound effect, it will go into your library, the same place that all your symbols and imported images go. This is a sound effect. I can tell that because of a couple reasons. One, there's a little icon here that looks like a little speaker. That means it's sound. Two, it's showing me what's called a waveform. Okay. What is a waveform? Glad you asked. Well, a waveform is the visualization of sound. Okay. So obviously sound is not a visual thing. It's an auditory thing. But what this represents is the intensity of the vibration. Okay, sound is a vibration. In fact, if you put your fingers up against your windpipe here, when you talk, you can literally feel, your it's not esophagus. Sorry, I'm not a biologist, but like your windpipe kind of contracts and expands. Okay, it vibrates. Okay, and so this actually measures the intensity of the vibration. The way to think of it is like, if you had like a needle on a record player, okay, and then you pushed it, it would kind of like go back and forth, right? The intensity of the movement. And so that's what this is. So essentially, if the vibration is very low, you have basically a straight line. If the vibration is high, meaning it's very intense, it goes farther from the middle point. Okay. This is also how they measure the vibrations for like an earthquake or something like that. Okay. So I can't tell by looking at a waveform what it is. Like I can't say this is a cat sound or a splat or whatever. But what I can say is, well, it starts very loud and then it gets softer over time. Okay, because the vibrations are getting weaker and weaker. Okay. Why does it come in two? Well, most sound is recorded in stereo. Okay, stereo is Latin for two. Okay, two what? Two channels. Why are there two channels? Well, you have a left ear, you have a right ear. Okay, so each channel, one is for the left ear, one is for the right ear. Okay, so a lot of times when you look at sound here, you'll probably see it as two channels as opposed to, or two waveforms as opposed to one. Okay, I can also play back my sound effect by hitting the little play button here, and that would tell me. Here, let me make sure that you guys can hear what I'm doing. Okay, hopefully you guys heard that little boing. All right, so that's my sound effect. If you want to edit the sound, you cannot edit it in Adobe Animate. Okay, Adobe Animate is not a sound editing program. Instead, you'd want to use something like Twisted Wave or some other program that would make minor edits and changes to the sound effect. Okay. So here I have this animation. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so I have this sound effect or this animation of a star moving across the page. Very, very simple. Okay. I want to have a sound effect, that boing sound effect, happen right in the middle. So how do I do that? Well, what I'm going to do is make a new layer. I'm going to call it sound. And how do I add something to my timeline? Well, the same way we kind of do it with anything, which is that we need a keyframe. In this case, a blank keyframe. Okay. So you see I have this blank keyframe here. And what I'm going to do is highlight that. Okay. And when you do that, I'm going to go to my properties panel, and we're going to have something that we don't normally have access to, which is the sound tab. Okay. The sound tab allows you to apply a sound effect or some sort of imported sound file to that keyframe. Okay. So what I'm going to do is under name, if I click, it's going to list every sound effect that I currently have imported. Now I only have one, so it only shows me one. But if I had multiple, it would show me all of them. I'm going to click on boing.wave, and it might be hard to see this, but there's actually a waveform here. Okay, that waveform is that sound effect being applied to my composition, okay, to my animation. Now, what I'm going to do is, if I'm going to play back my animation, I'm not going to play it back in Animate itself. Okay, there's a reason for that. You'll see why in a second. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test my scene. By testing your scene, what you're really going to do is make sort of a temporary animation file that you can look at. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Here's my file. And there's my sound effect. All right, so what exactly is happening here? Well, what's happening is the animation is playing, it's playing, it's playing, it's playing, it's playing. It hits that keyframe. That keyframe tells Animate to play that sound effect. Okay. So in other words, what actually causes the sound effect to play is that keyframe that we made. So if I take that keyframe and I move it to, say, the beginning of my animation, if I play it back, now instead of having the sound effect in the middle of the animation, it would be at the beginning. So let's play it back, test scene, and you can see it happens immediately. Let's say I want to remove the sound effect. Well, once again, because it's the keyframe that controls it, let's highlight that keyframe. And I'm going to go back to this and set it from whatever it is to none. Okay. Now, when I go back and I play this, there's no issues. Okay. I'm going to import another sound effect just to play around. So let's do the electric sparks. Okay. So it's in our library. This is what it sounds like. Let's do the same thing. I don't know, let's just say for the sake of argument, I want it to start at 2 seconds. So I'm going to add a keyframe. There's my keyframe. I'm going to click on that. Go to my properties, under sound, set it to that, and then that should be my sound effect. So if I play it at 2 seconds. Okay. All right. So that's the basics of, how to add sound. You get a sound effect. If you want to edit it, you would take it to something like Twisted Wave, or you can use a more professional program if you want to make changes to it. And then you would, import it into Adobe Animate. All right, I'm going to play. So here I have this animation. when I play back my animation here, okay. So what's happening here is my music is just kind of, um, so what's happening here is, my music is just starting. It starts at frame one and it keeps going until about, 6 seconds in roughly. But it's a little bit jarring, right? It's like boom, like right in your face. You know what I mean? So the reason why that's happening is like we kind of went from quiet to loud. It went like boom, like in your face. And so that's kind of jarring to people. So what we could actually try to do is have the music, in this case, this drum beat sound, kind of um, fade in, as we would say. Okay, fade in means when you go from soft to loud. Okay, so we can actually do that by using this effect tab. So if you click on the keyframe where it starts, and I go here, and I go under where it says fade in, what that means is that it's going to go from soft to loud. Okay, so let's try this again. Might be hard to tell if my music isn't coming through the video very well, but hopefully, you're hearing like it's starting soft and it's getting louder. Okay. We also have what is referred to as fade out. Fade out is basically the same, except instead of it happening at the beginning, it happens at the end. And instead of going from soft to loud, it goes from loud to soft. It's to kind of taper out or kind of smooth out the ending there. So if I do fade out, it's going to start loud. See how it kind of fades out there at the end? Like the fade out of a song, on the radio or something. There's a couple other options as well. Um, left channel and right channel would play just the left channel or just the right channel. Remember how I said that, music comes as, oops, why is it not letting me? Sorry. Here we go. Let me make a new layer. There you go. There it is. Okay, there's my library. So actually here, I only actually have one channel. Um, here you can see two channels. So what this would do is it would just play the left channel or the right channel. Now, what does that do? Sometimes, so in this case, in exercise two, this is what we refer to as mono, which means there's only one music channel. Okay. And basically, if you were listening to this on some headphones, it would just send the same song to both ears. If something is recorded in stereo, which a lot more professional music typically is, what it would do is, this isn't always the case, but what some people who record music might do is, let's say you have a song, you could send like one, like let's say there's a band, right? And there's like singing and there's also like guitar or other kinds of instruments. You could send the singing to one channel and then the other instruments to the other channel. Okay. This was very popular like in the 60s and stuff. Sometimes people do this, sometimes they don't, where sometimes the channels are different and different parts of the song or different parts of the music are recorded to different channels. This is why maybe like if you're only having one, you can only have like one earbud in and like you're listening to a song and you're like, why can't I hear the lyrics? Or like, where's where's the guitar? That's probably because it was recorded in stereo and each channel got different, vocal tracks and that kind of stuff. Okay, so what does that have to do with anything? Well, if you are choosing, if you're choosing left or right channel, you're only playing one channel. Okay. What fade to right or fade to left would do is it would actually, remember how we said fading is like going from loud to soft? This would fade from not the whole song, but it would fade from one channel to the other. So in other words, what would happen is like if this was my song, this would fade out while this fades in. If it's the same music, like if both channels are the same, it's not going to change anything. You won't notice a difference. It only would change it if and only if if they were when they recorded the song, they recorded things to different tracks, different, different channels there. Okay. So let's say, like, I like the fade in, but let's say I wanted it to be a little bit longer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go down here to custom. What custom is going to allow me to do is play around with the, what's the word I'm looking for? The audio levels, how loud they are. Okay, so it's going to give you this. It's called Edit Envelope. And this is actually my music. You can kind of navigate by going this plus and zoom in, zoom out. So I could look at more of the waveform or less, zoom in on the waveform. Currently, this is measured in seconds. So this is, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, 5 seconds. I would recommend, since most of the time we're thinking about things in frames, it might be easier to think about it in frames. So now it's like, 25 frames, 50 frames, 100, 75 frames. What this black line represents is the intensity of your channel, which basically means how loud is it. So if this is all the way at the top, that means we can hear it at full volume. Okay. See how this is left over from my fade out? See how it's going down? Well, this is the audio level. So what it means is it's going from loud to soft. Okay. And in fact, if you click on this line, you will get these little boxes. And these boxes allow you to play around with the audio levels. So if I do this, what I've just done is my music is going to start soft and get louder and louder and louder and louder and louder till about 30 frames, give or take, 35 frames, Then it's going to stay loud, and then it's going to, fade out. And in fact, you can even preview this if you want. All right, so let's see how this actually plays out. So let's go to my test scene. And there you go. If I want to go back and make edits to that, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to, you could go back to custom, or you can click on this little thing that looks like a speaker with a little pencil. That's the edit. That would bring you back. And then let's just say, for the sake of argument, I want to have it go up and then down and then up and then down. By the way, if you want to remove one of these handles that you created, you literally just can pull them off and that would remove it. So if I just pull it up, you can say I pull it off. All right, so this is going to go up and then down and then up and then down. Or loud, sorry, soft and then loud, soft, loud, soft. Okay. Let's try that out. Okay. All right, last thing I'm going to talk about in this particular video is just about, like, when it comes to let's stop it there.